What happens next in Israel? Part 6. In 1967, Israel was celebrating its Independence Day when the Israeli government received word that the Egyptian president was moving heavy artillery into the Sinai Desert. Additionally, large numbers of Egyptian forces were crossing the Suez Canal into the Sinai Desert. The Egyptian government had put its army on alert for an upcoming war. Syria and Jordan, too, moved into a state of alert and announced that they would not sit idly by if Israel attacked Egypt. The Lubavitcher Rebbe, Menachem Shearson, of righteous memory, played a key role in calming and reassuring a frightened and trepidation-filled nation, both before and during the war, and foretelling its miraculous outcome. A UN officer says his last farewell to his Israeli counterpart as they evacuate the Sinai border on May 19, 1967. The news of the pact between Egypt, Syria, and Jordan, effectively creating a noose around Israel's borders, brought home to a frightened Israeli public the reality of an impending war. The media began discussing the prospects of a war with much bloodshed. The term Second Holocaust was bandied about. Amin al-Husseini and Otto Skorzeny must have been gleeful about a possible end to the state of Israel. As foreign embassies called for their citizens to immediately evacuate from Israel, and foreign airlines were contemplating terminating their flights to Israel, the Israeli Daily carried a surprisingly uplifting headline: God is watching over the Holy Land and salvation is near, the headline screamed. The article contained the Rebbe's message: there is no reason to be afraid. There is no reason to frighten others. I am displeased with the exaggerations being disseminated and the panicking of the citizens of Israel. May 31st, 1967. At Lubavitch World Headquarters in Brooklyn, the Rebbe called on world Jewry to increase their performance of good deeds in the merit of their brethren in Israel. The Rebbe quoted the verse, all nations of the earth will see that the name of the Lord is upon you, and they will fear you. By 7:30 a.m., 200 Israeli Air Force planes were in the air, heading toward Egyptian air bases. Though flying very low, so as not to be detected by the scores of Arab radar sites, the Jordanian radar facility detected an unusually large number of aircraft heading toward the sea. The officer on duty immediately sent a message, Inab, the code word for war, to Jordanian military headquarters in Amman. The message was encoded and passed on to Egypt's defense minister in Cairo. Miraculously, however, the Egyptian coding frequencies had been changed the previous day, and the Jordanians had not been updated. That morning, with the element of surprise in their favor, the IAF obliterated 6 Egyptian airfields, 2 in Egypt proper and 4 in the Sinai Desert, destroying 204 Egyptian planes, half of their air force. Though Egypt had sufficient anti-aircraft ammunition to destroy all the attacking Israeli planes, miraculously no order was given for these missiles to be launched. The Israelis accomplished their mission with practically no resistance. Israel controlled the air. Israeli troops pressed on in the Sinai front after capturing the Egyptian eastern outpost the day earlier. They now approached a heavily defended outpost. As the Israelis drew near, they heard massive explosions. When they arrived, they saw the Egyptians, for no apparent reason, had destroyed equipment and abandoned the base. As the day continued, it became clear that the Egyptians were hastily abandoning many of their outposts, some with all of their supplies left behind. At the end of one of the shortest wars in history, more than 10,000 Egyptians, 700 Jordanians, and 400 Syrians were dead. In addition, more than 20,000 of the three nations were wounded. Israel, on the other hand, claimed fewer than 800 dead, 2,563 wounded. That amounts to Israel killing 25 enemy troops for every one Israeli lost. Israel conquered 42,000 square miles, making the nation 3 times its original size in 1 week. This must have been a hard reality for Amin al-Husseini and even Skorzeny to face. Amin al-Husseini's hateful life ended in 1974, after a 1973 Yom Kippur War, which may have given him some satisfaction. In 1967, Israeli General Moshe Dayan captured East Jerusalem, the Holy City, and the Temple Mount from Jordan during the Six-Day War. One of the mysteries of 1967 is, why did Israel give the Temple Mount back to Islam? Israel's soldiers are at the wall, but leave the Temple Mount to Muslims. You ever see Moshe Dayan and the soldiers? This map's providing tangible proof of the falsehood of land for peace that can no longer be tolerated. The only key to peace in the Middle East is for Palestinian government made up of Fatah and the terrorist Hamas to accept Israel's right to exist and to drop their commitment to destroy Eretz Israel. The more land Israel has given to the Palestinians, the less respected they are by the Arabs and militant Muslims, and the more these enemies attack the Jewish nation. These maps show a few Jewish settlements in white, expanding to greatly limit the Arab areas in green, which are called Palestinian. The Jubilee is the 50th year after 7 sabbatical cycles that totaled 49 years. The year 1917 plus 50 equals 1967. The year 1967 plus 50 equals 2017. The Jubilee is in Hebrew Yovel. The next 5 slides contain a recent, urgent, timely message from the Temple Mount and Land of Israel Faithful Movement in blue print alongside the information that is related to their message. Please pause this video to read this timely message. In 2017, something significant may happen. The 50-year Jubilee cycle may have reactivated in 1917 as more Jews came into the land. When ye are come into the land which I give you, a Jubilee shall the 50th year be unto you. Leviticus 25, 2-11. Wars were at the beginning of each prior 50-year cycle. Here we see Orthodox Jews threatened by Muslims after trying to pray on the Temple Mount. Jordan has threatened to review a 1994 peace treaty with Israel after the Knesset began discussions on allowing Jewish prayers on the Haram al-Sharif, the noble sanctuary, as it's called by the Muslims, which contains the Al-Aqsa Mosque in occupied East Jerusalem. Prime Minister Abdullah Nasser said that if Israel violates the peace treaty on the issue, the entire treaty, its articles, details, and wording will be put on the table. The Haram al-Sharif site has been administered by an Islamic trust under the authority of Jordan since the Crusades. Jews call it the Temple Mount. Last year, Arab-Israeli members of the Knesset were expelled from a parliamentary meeting to discuss plans for the Haram al-Sharif. They were protesting against what they perceive as a desecration of the site, which has recently been stormed several times by Jewish extremists. They warned that allowing Jewish prayer in the compound would trigger a third intifada, or Palestinian uprising. Israeli police clashed with Palestinian protesters ahead of the Knesset debate. The Prime Minister of Benjamin Netanyahu's Likud party said Israel's fear of triggering Muslim rage is a discrimination against Jews. Any terror organization can raise its flag there, but there can be no trace of the Israeli flag, he told the Knesset. Only Jews are forbidden to pray at this place. This is where the temple was. Could this conflict over the Temple Mount ignite the Psalm 83 war? These are the areas that ISIS has controlled. The 5-year goal of ISIS is to control all of the areas that Islamic forces had once controlled. They have no place for Israel to exist. After the fall of Mosul, an ISIS fighter was on CNN saying, Mosul, Baghdad, and then Jerusalem. See more in What Happens Next in Israel, Part 7. For more information and ways that you can help us to blow the trumpet in Zion and sound an alarm, you may contact us, Hope of Israel, at Tikva Yisrael, by email, shlomo1335 at gmail.com. Ask for Shlomo. Yisrael Kai.